Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another awesome episode with Acupuncture is My Life. Now, today, I want to get into alcoholism. Yeah. This has become something really serious pertaining to this pandemic. I mean, it's really gotten out of control, and it's had such a negative impact on households. Just these tons of cases of domestic violence, suicide, so forth and so on. You see, alcohol drinking has a long history in the world as a popular habit in which some people become addicted, leading to alcohol poisoning. And a lot of times, this is as a result of improvement of life. And with the improvement of life, there's usually an increasing tendency of alcohol drinking, which should be seriously taken into account. But now, here we're dealing with something different. And I wouldn't call it the improvement of life. And that's this pandemic and dealing with COVID-19. That's also increased alcohol consumption. And as I just stated, alcohol addiction, in which many people who previously didn't even social drink, I mean, they may have had a glass of champagne on New Year's Eve, or maybe a sip of wine on their birthday or on a holiday that they deem really special to them, have become addicted to alcohol as a result of this pandemic. And you see alcohol addiction and alcohol poisoning tends to give rise to many social problems such as traffic accidents, crimes, suicides, and again, like I said, domestic violence. Alcoholism has broken up many families, many. And that's cause for concern. It really, really is. It's cause for concern. I mean, this is something as a society, a global society, we have to think long and hard about. Because in most cases, once we become addicted to alcohol, it becomes very hard to stop. It becomes a crutch for the many stresses we face in life that previously we didn't need alcohol to deal with. And we'd like to safely blame the pandemic for it. But now, as a global society, we have to come together and figure out a way to get past it, to get over it, to resume a previous lifestyle where we didn't consume alcohol as much. You see, this pandemic is affecting every family across the country. And it's more than likely going to have a long-lasting impact on public health and well-being far after this pandemic is over. You see, the misuse of alcohol is already a public health concern in the United States. I don't have the particulars with regard to individual countries and even continents, but it's a problem. But definitely in the United States, with the dramatic increases in emergency department visits and alcohol-related deaths, which have been observed over recent years. I mean, alcohol has the potential to further complicate this pandemic in so many ways. The virus is still relatively novel, and this pandemic, I mean, we've, for the most part, I mean, I don't know if people are how many are still alive from the flu outbreak in the early 1900s, but I could safely say, for the most part, I mean, this is a new phenomena. This is something that's just new to us globally, like, you know, global pandemic, you know, lockdown orders, stay at home, restrictions on movements, restrictions on, you know, how you communicate verbally as well as physically. And as humans, we're social creatures, and we heavily rely on communicating, touching. It's so much a part of us and who we are as humans. You know, but the pitfalls that come with drinking alcohol, consuming alcohol, and alcohol being highly addictive, we have to consider the effects of alcohol on our immune systems. You see, when you abuse alcohol, it activates the immune system. It causes inflammation. It interferes with the body's ability, or the body's immune response to viral and bacterial infections. And that's not good. That's not good at all. Like, let's look at the lungs, for instance. Since COVID-19 is a respiratory disease, you see, in the lungs, when you drink a lot of alcohol damages the epithelial cells that line the lung surface, which associates it with acute respiratory distress syndrome. You see, an impaired immune system function and an increased susceptibility to respiratory illness contributes to the severity of a COVID-19 infection, with greater risk of mortality. In a nutshell, excessive, or rather abusing alcohol, not only influences susceptibility to COVID-19, but overall its severity, but the broad effects of this pandemic are also likely to lead to an increase in rehabilitation overall. You know, because, you know, compare it to previous disasters. Let's say we've dealt with Hurricane Katrina, we've dealt with 9/11 here in the United States, and again, alcohol consumption went up. But we're looking at astronomical numbers in this country right now and around the world. Because you have to think, situations such as what we're faced with now, the stress, the anxiety, exacerbates symptoms of alcohol use disorder. You know, we also know that as social creatures, feeling socially isolated, the mental effects of physical distancing worsens. It tends to worsen symptoms of anxiety and depression. And that, you know, for the most part, encourages increased use of or drinking of alcohol. Now, one thing's for sure, statistics do show around the world that there's increases in retail alcohol sales, and I'll get into that in a minute. You know, I'll break it down these increased numbers relative to race, gender, age, and so forth. And to go along with this, we also have to consider stress from unemployment as well, along with, as I said, isolation, physical distancing, as a representative factor of what's influencing excessive alcohol consumption. We're in a time of such uncertainty. This nation has never seen before. Like, we'll talk about the Great Depression, the flu pandemic from the early 1900s. But comparatively, when you look at those numbers, I think in the early 1900s, the United States had roughly around 90 something million people. We're like pushing like 350 million people just in this country alone. But we've become a global society to this point. So now you really have to look beyond your borders as a nation, whether you're in Japan, whether you're in India, Africa, China, any country on the continent of Europe. You have to look beyond your borders and factor in a global society, global community. Everything. I don't want to be absolute. I don't like being absolute with regard to statements that I make. But as a global society, there's just so much we have to factor in, so much that we have to consider, But when it comes to alcohol, you have a lot of people that really should be avoiding alcohol completely, And these are people that are taking over-the-counter or prescription drugs, people that have certain medical conditions, or even young people. They're, juvenile suicide is like, it's going through the roof, and young people are getting together in groups relative to the lockdown or schools being closed or whatever the case, and they're consuming alcohol and their parents don't even know about it until it's too late. Then you also have, women that are pregnant or trying to become pregnant, and the stresses of the uncertainty in which we're faced with now, they're turning to alcohol. And this is why I said earlier, the long-term effects, the fallout of this pandemic, we don't even know yet what the fallout will be. And but others that should be looking to avoid alcohol are those that, when you're planning to drive somewhere or participate in activities that require optimal alertness, coordination, things of that nature. And the more alcohol we consume, the more we require the next time around, in most cases. When we put the bottle down, temporarily recover, and then boom, we're faced with another stressful event under the umbrella of this pandemic. It hits us, and then we may need an extra glass. And that's not good. And when you abuse alcohol and you want to reduce or stop drinking, you it's best that you seek medical help, medical attention, counseling. Because after a certain point, of abuse, withdrawal symptoms can be deadly. And many, many, many people are unaware of that. Many people are unaware of that. And, with that being the case, this is why, I even recommend people, download the app, engage in a private chat session with Acupuncture is My Life. We offer telehealth. There are certain acupressure points that can help, that are very effective. And I have to reiterate, not acupuncture, but they are acupuncture points, but you can apply acupressure to them to assist with withdrawal symptoms. And a lot of people, want to be public or go public or be loud about the fact that they have drinking problems. And this is why I say, it's important to have the Acupuncture is My Life app, so all chat sessions are private unless you ask me to ask a question or answer a question on the podcast or on the YouTube channel video. See what types of comments or whatever, how other people respond as well. Other than that, if you don't ask, that's like totally private, just between Acupuncture is My Life and you. But alcoholism is a serious problem today. You see, in terms of this disorder relative to traditional Chinese medicine, alcohol has a strong toxicity, whereas in the stomach, it tends to induce distension and adverse qi. Now, when this reverse qi goes up to the chest, it tends to burn the liver and the gallbladder, and it has a propensity to induce anger and mental disorder. Whereas clinically, alcoholic delirium, hallucinosis, and paranoia are similar in Chinese medicine to the syndromes of drunken madness and drunken mania. And I'll dive a little deeper into that in a minute, But alcoholism, as a result of this pandemic, has become a greater problem to society. We're also finding more people drinking heavily to cope with stress, sleep disturbances, boredom because of isolation. See, alcohol temporarily dampens the brain and the body's response to stress, only to be faced, with stress and anxiety again once you sober up, once the alcohol wears off. You see, alcohol abuse tends to cause adaptations in the brain that intensifies the stress response. And as a result, drinking alcohol to cope tends to make problems worse. And then you end up finding yourself drinking just to fix the problems that alcohol actually caused. So again, I'll reiterate, it's important, if you can, contact Acupuncture is My Life, download the app, gain access to free telehealth, whereas we'll attempt to guide you through, privately, through this problem. You see, alcohol in traditional Chinese medicine tends to be pungent in taste. And this is an Eastern nutrition thing. You know, the 5 tastes. Alcohol tends to be pungent in taste. And pungent is more so tied to the lungs. And it's apt to forming phlegm in the body. And it can cause psychosis. You see, due to individual difference when it comes to patients tend to present with different symptoms. Some being marked signs of madness or mania, which tends to be induced by excessive qi or excessive yang. And even by excessive internal cold yin, which is yin in nature. You see, those with excessive qi of yang are more likely, again, like I stated earlier, to present with drunken mania, which is yang in nature, of course. And those with excessive cold yin present with drunken madness. You see, in TCM, excessive drinking of alcohol usually transforms dampness into heat. And it becomes damp heat, which impairs the spleen and stomach, which is your middle jiao, and it's responsible for postnatal qi. Which also eventually causes mental disturbance. Let's look at statistics here for a second. As a result of the pandemic, alcohol sales have increased by more than 54% in the United States alone. Globally, I understand that number's even higher. Collectively, it's even higher. But let's say age groups between 30 and 59 have seen roughly a 54% increase in alcohol consumption, whereas age group between 60 and 80 has seen a 46% increase in alcohol consumption. Now, when it comes to gender, females have increased alcohol consumption by 57% to males at 43%. Race, ethnicity, alcohol consumption by whites is a little more than 71%, whereas by African Americans it's close to 10%. Hispanics just below 14%. Other races combined, it's like a 4.9, closing in on 5%. I mean, this we have a problem here, and whatever we can do on our own, it's a start. But I'll go back to the word that I used in my earlier episode on smoking. It's when you decide you want to pick up that bottle because you're stressed, just because, you know, you lost your job or domestic issues, a lot relative to uncertainty. Just say to yourself, nope. That's one way you can attempt to start, because it's not as if you'll just turn around and all of a sudden just stop cold turkey. But let's just say, even if you want to take the gradual approach, which is the more realistic approach, if you've gotten up to 4 to 6 glasses or 2 packs of beers, case of beers, or 2 6-packs of beers, try to cut down by 1. And when you've reached that limit of less by 1, you desire another one. What's the magic word? Nope. Mental strength. And there are resources out there to help you. A powerful resource is family. You know, because in your sober state, you turn to your partner or your children or even your parents and just ask them to help you stop. And if you feel it'll be a problem just doing it cold turkey, you just let them know your goals. You know, can you help me, just using a number, go from 6 to 5? Then after a certain point, 5 to 4, 4 to 3. I tell you something that can help you a lot. You'll be amazed. Exercise. I've already begun telling some of my patients or people that have contacted me via private chat session on the Acupuncture's My Life app, create an exercise regimen. You'll be astonished. And you replace the drink with water because you have to rehydrate. A good exercise program is going to, especially got to have cardio. Set goals for yourself. You know, simple things like look at your stomach. Oh my gosh, it's just not flat. It's this, it's that. You know, I want to get a 6-pack, so I want to do crunches, and I just want to amp up the cardio and this and that. Desire for liquids. Consume lots of water. Rehydrate. Because that's another negative attribute to alcohol, is it dehydrates you. It sends you to the bathroom, and you just, you know, on average, we should consume roughly around 70 ounces of water per day or more. And if we're releasing it from the body, you have to start by just simply replacing what you've released from the body as a result of alcohol consumption. You know, why do I say on average 70 ounces per day? It's because as we talk, we release water, move, do things, we sweat. Bowel movements, we release water. Urination, we're releasing water. fluids. And we have to replace that just from just normal daily activity. So now imagine when you're consuming alcohol, you're ridding the body of that much more fluid. And I just like to blanket fluids as water, because, I mean, there's so many people out there that think because I drank a Diet Coke, or, you know, I had a fruit juice, even a beer. Oh yeah, I drink, I consume enough fluids for the day. No, you don't. That's actually purging you. Those things are purging you. Fluid content. So that means you have to replace even more. Now, alcohol, you know, you have to be able to think, you know, you're drinking and you're running to the bathroom, and you're drinking and you're running to the bathroom. You're dehydrating yourself, stressing your kidneys, your liver, your heart. Just think about what you're doing to your internal organs. The damage. You know, if you just try and make yourself conscious of the damage that you're doing to your body, even before you decide to drink, you'd be amazed as to how much it affects you once you get beyond that second glass or second beer. Now it's like subtle alarms are going off, and it's saying, you know, I don't think I should be doing this. You know, I really, really don't think I should be doing this. You know, but my experience in treating individuals who abuse alcohol, you know, like I said, in the world of acupuncture, you know, you have two main areas. One being drunken mania, as I said previously, which is yang in nature, you know, and it presents with symptoms of, let's say, dizziness, vertigo, shaking of the extremities, a staggering gait, fullness in the chest, vomiting, red cheeks, red eyes. Sometimes bouts with crying and cursing, hallucinosis, destroying objects, attacking people, restlessness day and night, poor appetite. All you have to do is like go to the mirror, assess your tongue, and you'll see like a yellow, greasy tongue coating. And if you even check your pulse, it'll be very rapid. See, those types of patients, I focus on strengthening the spleen and removing dampness to relieve the alcoholic toxicity and to ease their mind. See, these things are important. Acupuncture is great when it comes to alcoholism. Great. Don't underestimate acupuncture and what it can do, what it can treat. Because some people think, you know, they're under the mindset that it's only good for pain. And, you know, I've dealt with thousands of patients in my time that couldn't figure out how to deal with myriad of illnesses or addictions. And had no answers and found themselves calling acupuncture is my life, getting in touch with acupuncture is my life, and inquiring, like, can acupuncture help with X, Y, and Z, because I've totally run out of alternatives. And as a state licensed, board certified doctor of acupuncture, you know, it becomes disappointing hearing that, Because in most cases, if you had pursued acupuncture in the first place, but at least the attempt was made. Whether it was your first choice or your last. Addiction? Not a protocol. And acupuncture is awesome in dealing with addiction. I'm certified in that area and use it a lot, and it's very, very, very effective. But the other diagnosis, again, like I spoke of earlier, can be drunken madness, which, as I previously stated, is yin in nature. And those symptoms present with a dark complexion, dull vision, dizziness, vertigo, unsteady pace, memory dysfunction, shaking extremities, again, unusual crying and laughing, sleeplessness, restlessness, chest fullness, abdominal distension, poor appetite, sometimes even dry vomiting. Constipation, of course, because it's back to dehydration. When you're dehydrated, it's very hard for you to move your bowels. But under the diagnosis of drunken madness, in this case, the tongue coating would be white and greasy. And when I see patients like that, I look to relieve alcoholic toxicity and remove turbidity, remove dampness, and dredge the orifices. Acupuncture is great. With treating this problem, just like smoking, as I've spoken about in a previous episode. I'm going to get into drug abuse relative to this pandemic as well, just not today. But that's a problem also. Huge problem. And just as I'd stated on Monday, download the Acupuncture is My Life app from the Google Play Store so that you can ask questions. I've already began receiving a few questions, and it's given me ideas for certain topics I can discuss. I'd like to discuss. But there's a lot to talk about relative to this pandemic. What's going on? How does it affect the psyche? But I really, globally, I want all of you to understand that alcohol is a form of poison. Whether you drink socially or you abuse it, you're putting poison into your body. Can the body detox, recover? Yeah, the human body, the human organism is awesome. Awesome. Because it's designed to repair itself. But when it falls out of homeostasis, when it falls out of balance relative to yin and yang, unless you address it, especially with acupuncture or even other modalities under the umbrella of Chinese medicine, because acupuncture is just one therapeutic aspect of Chinese medicine. But when yin and yang falls out of balance, ooh, the longer you go without restoring balance, harmonizing yin and yang, one affected meridian then affects the next. For instance, the liver meridian can then affect the heart meridian, which can affect the spleen meridian, the lung meridian, then the kidney meridian. See, this is the generating cycle in the 5 elements of acupuncture. You don't want problems to persist for a long period of time. Another thing, and this is global too. People are afraid of, they feel that, acupuncture is expensive. And really it's not. Don't be afraid to sit with an acupuncturist and discuss your financial situation and get to understand the cost of it and how you can make it work for yourself. But we have a problem here relative to this pandemic and alcoholism. And it's something that has to be addressed sooner rather than later, because it can negatively impact, and it's already begun doing so, future generations. But start with trying to self-assess, because it has to begin there, and see if you could come up with ways in which you can begin the process. And some may require, outside help. And if you don't or can't come up with any ideas, you can contact Acupuncture is My Life. Whether you go to the website acupunctureismylife.com, or you download the app, or you call. But this alcoholism is something that you really don't want to get out of control. And if it's not affecting you directly, but affecting a loved one, you have to be proactive for that person, because they may not be in a position to help themselves. So to be like an ostrich and put your head in the sand, I don't see it, I hope it all just goes away. Even when you see them picking up a beer or a glass of wine or any form of alcohol, what's that word again? Nope. They may be mad at you in the immediate, but love you in the long run for assisting them. And there's some gratification in doing this and knowing that you've saved someone, you've helped someone, and see them resume a healthy lifestyle and get away from alcohol. Yeah. But we're faced with a problem. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, again, like I said, just download the Acupuncture is My Life app from the Google Play Store and contact me. But other than that, everyone stay safe, be well, and until next time, acupuncture is my life. What's yours?